Hi, Gio. What's going on?
Hi. It's been a while since
I
we've
know it's
actually
totally
did one
been
of
a
these
while.
recordings.
I know.
You were trying to
When
figure out what do we talk about. It's like there's so much to talk about, but it's like which we go down all these rabbit trails, right? It's like
rabbit
let's go
trailing.
in that rabbit hole and go through the trail and come back. But I mean, obviously, we've had some great guests here
You had some
recently.
great. I know. I was just looking at your background. Well, Mark's not live yet. Well, he'll be live by the time this one comes out, I guess. You've got
Oh,
Mindspace in your background. So we
yeah.
just had Mark Goldfinger on, who's awesome. And he's like, I love that he's getting involved and you're getting him to come to events and host happy hours and all that good stuff. We should do a plug for the GWA conference in Chicago.
We should.
Yeah.
Tickets are up. By the time this is over, the early bird's going to be gone though.
Oh, dang it.
But
Okay.
but either
Oh,
way, I mean, there's still time to get a reduced price. So I mean,
100%. Yes.
you and I
And plan
just
for it.
spent,
Block your
yeah,
calendar. I just secretly blocked the whole week. I had it held and I was like, I just went in and did the little secret update and I held it for the whole week because there's a bank holiday in there.
yeah. So it's October 14th through 17th,
Yeah.
and I heads up, everyone needs to book their hotels ahead of time. So there's
Oh,
like some
ASAP.
candy convention
Okay.
or something like that, and
You know what?
so
Yeah. I just listened. This is a total side note. I just started, I think Hector, when we went to OFS, told me about this one. I might be wrong. It's called Acquired. It's a podcast. It was like a 3 hour podcast on Mars. And they were headquartered in Chicago for a long time and they brought Wrigley. So Chicago for a long time has been like the candy capital of the US.
well, also they just have so many conferences too, and
Totally.
it's
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
a big
great time of
convention
year to
town.
be in Chicago.
Super. That's why I secretly blocked off the whole week. I was like, well, I'm going to go hang out. It's going to be like
Yeah.
early fall. It's going to be fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you and
Yep.
I just spent, 30 minutes talking about content and all kinds of stuff. So, we're trying to bring some new faces and some new topics and all
Okay,
kinds of
but
stuff.
you know what my pitch is? Oh, hold on, I'm going to blank on his name. The one of the
On
co-founders
Centaur.
of Gather.
Oh,
Shoot.
James.
James. Thank you. James, I don't think I'd ever met James in person.
Yeah.
He introduced me or some we got connected to their marketing company and I did a podcast with their marketing company because they do some interesting things. But anyway, James at the Immersive, he said that he just committed to going to all the conferences for a couple of years because he said he realizes that if you go, like you build connections and you repeat see people and it's totally different when you just decide you're going to be like a part of that community versus
Yeah.
just dropping in like once every 5 years. And he's, a long-term operator and
Yeah.
I thought like, yes, that's exactly it. I wish more people would think that way. So I think that's a good pitch. Like just think about coming because it, every time you go, you get so much more out of it when you know people and can, have coffee dates and make real connections.
Yeah. And we're seeing more and more of that, right? And so, I mean, I'll tell you, actually, Juicy just announced New York
They
for
do, yeah.
for next year, and they're going to do it at J Suites,
Hmm.
which has been around for a while, and it was their
Forever.
first time attending a conference. And so that's when he decided he wanted to host. And so Liz went up there and they finalized that. And so,
Yep.
they're an example. Lifetime Work. It was their first time in Boston for Juicy. I got a call last week. I'd reached out to Stark's Office Suites, who's been in New York for a long time. They've got,
Hmm.
double figured locations and they just figured they needed to plug into something. And so we had a long conversation. He reached out here recently and was like, okay, we want to become members. I've got a call tomorrow with James actually to talk
Oh,
about,
nice.
being a panelist and
Cool.
trying to get him into the membership fold. And so, I mean, I think that's just a big part of it is people are realizing how valuable it is. Oh, another conversation I
Yeah.
had with Industrious, right? So Liz Simon reached out and was like, "Hey, I want some of my team members to attend. What is it?
Oh,
How do we do
good.
that? And everything else." And so, I think the more
You're
people
doing it.
attend these conferences, they
Yeah.
realize the value of hearing from other people what they're doing and learning from them, but also bringing value and expertise to the table, right? And I think that's something that we continue pushing overall as an industry, right? Is when we talk about it, there's, you know, over 7,000 locations in the US alone, right? And how many operators that is, it's in the thousands, for
Hmm.
sure, because people have multiple locations, but there's a lot of these operators that have double digits that most people haven't heard about, or, people that are growing, or, changing, or, there's going to continue to be growth, consolidation, and mergers of some sort. And so these are great opportunities to get out and hear what other people are doing and learn from them and see different product types, and find value in those things. And so, I think that's the exciting part about these conferences. So hopefully we'll continue to see new faces and, new opportunities for sponsors and everything else. But yeah, I mean, it continues. It's funny. People continue asking me, you had introduced me some investors out of Houston, and part of their question this morning was like, do you think the co-working space can continue growing? And I'm like, did hotels continue growing with new brands and new product types? And then Airbnb popped up, and now we've got people doing like, these glamping with, these tents, and we're seeing RV type
Yeah.
of
Even
Airstream.
I think Hilton bought or has a partnership with, yeah,
Yeah.
what's the Airstream company? I always hear the ad for that. So
Yeah.
it's like the segmentation and the innovation, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like
And someone else did something, I think it's called the Retreat or something like that. And it's glamping to some
yeah,
extent. And so we're just going to continue to see it evolving, and it's going to shift. And landlords are doing more and more of these,
yeah.
you know, spec suites with town halls or some type of shared flex space. And so, I just think there's more opportunities for there to be collaboration and growth. And, it's co-warehousing is continuing to get, I mean, it's
Oh,
funny.
you got to put that as a topic on your content list.
I was having a conversation with a group about CubeWorks, and I went to their website, and they're in like 20 states now.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't
Yeah, I feel
count it
like those, I
exactly,
mean, it's
but
like they're kind of in a different category, but it's adjacent. And I do think for the real estate owners, it's an interesting model that they like to consider. So I think it's a good one.
yeah. And so, I mean, that's just a
Wait,
great
is
example.
CubeWorks Lorena? Who's CubeWorks? No, not only Lorena, but
No, 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 no.
we've not had
That's,
CubeWorks on. Okay. Maybe we'll have to have them on.
yeah, I've reached out to a couple people and never been able to they're kind of fly under the radar, never had much
Yep.
luck, but maybe it's time I turned it up a notch. So I think it's just these conversations are continuing, right? I mean, as we've said before, I mean, what we started the year with, as far as the full acquisition of CBRE or of Industrious by CBRE, was huge, right?
Yeah.
It was,
Oh my gosh, that was just this year.
yeah,
Wow.
earlier this year. And
Yeah.
then, I think part of the big topic is also IWG and the instant deal. And then you've got Yardi that's bought.
Yep. Just
Uh,
Pass, Hubble. Yep.
yeah. And so I think we're going to continue to see people investing in the space. And so it's a interesting time. It's a dynamic time. I think it's time for people to just get creative and find opportunities to continue getting involved and learning and growing.
Yep. I agree. And you don't, I feel like maybe now more than ever, it's important you need the macro view of what's happening. You need to know what other people are doing. And how do you get that unless you go to the conferences or join the GWA and do all the content that you have going on? But the most macro stuff is happening at the conferences. So,
And even then, I mean, you're getting an hour bite size of it, right? And so, I mean, I think going out and hearing what other people are working on, I
yeah.
mean, that's why so many people listen to your podcast, mine,
Yep.
Liz's, and others, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a big part of it is, you start hearing, I mean, like AI, we've had some great conversations about AI, specifically when we had Gina on, and she was talking about how she's using AI for different things. And, how are people doing with
Her
their,
advisory board.
oh yeah,
It's totally on
that
my
was
list
mind
to
blowing.
sit down and do that. I love that.
Yeah. And so it's just interesting to hear what people are doing and learning from them, especially for these operators to be able to take stuff back to their team, to bring their team and have their team learn what other people are doing, right? How are people doing meetings and events, which you did a couple months ago on a webinar
Oh,
for
that's right.
GWA.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yep.
Some of the questions around pricing and dynamic pricing, which is such a big
Yeah.
word being used right now. What does that look like?
Yeah.
How is that shifting? And we have to stay on top of what's going on in the industry, right? If not, we get left behind. And so I think that's some of the fun things to learn and kind of take away from a lot of these conversations.
Yep. You know who you should get is somebody from Peerspace. I'm going to mention this because I bet anybody listening who's listed on Peerspace feels the same way. Their algorithm is totally mysterious. You can't figure out like how to get to the top of it. And there's something, I don't just, there's something AI in there, but they bring a lot of operators, a lot of leads for events and meetings.
You spell that?
PEER
Okay.
space.
It's
Yeah.
like, are you saying pure or peer?
Everybody's on it. Every
Yeah.
time I talk to an operator and I ask them where to get your leads from, Peerspace is a big one in most markets.
Okay.
Yep, for meetings and
I
events.
hadn't
And
even heard of it. See,
yeah,
that's a
you
great example.
go on one of them. And I was thinking about the dynamic pricing piece, which they don't do yet, but pricing is such a great topic. It's so complicated. Maybe you don't know this about me. I'm a total nerd. And if I'm not
I already
careful,
know
I'll
this.
that I'm a nerd. I will just go down a rabbit hole. Yesterday, I was trying to figure out how to price part-time private offices and like looking at what Regis is doing. Regis is a great example, but they also just have a totally different like scale than the individual operator. So what are
Yeah.
they doing? They have a part-time private office product that's $559 a month, unlimited. Interesting, right? A lot of people would sell a full-time private office. So I was going through the whole pricing model with ChatGPT and asking like, just kept asking questions like, well, why are they doing this? Well, why does this work? Just kind of digging into that. But the dynamic pricing thing is really interesting because I'm working with an operator in Irvine and she has just the most beautiful meeting rooms. They're gorgeous, but she's missing out on meeting room revenue. And I think part of it is pricing. Like, is she priced too high? It's really hard to know in a market, like what's happening and what's getting booked. And FlexSpace can help with that a lot if they have the operators on the platform. It has to be scale. But Peerspace is a big lead gen for her, and she's not showing up at the top. And we were trying to figure out how does she get to the top? All those practical things that like make a big difference in your revenue. So
Yeah.
anyway,
And
that's
then what are
my
people charging back to that point, right? Is
yeah.
going, we toured here in Dallas and we toured the Rome location and we were walking through it and Megan with 25N asked, well, what does this room go for? And the guy was like, $2,100. She's like, what? Right. And people don't think about that. But when you're comparing it to hotel rates and, you've high touch hospitality,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, the average operator can't charge that, right? If there's one person,
No,
one and
I
a half
think Atlanta's
people.
such a. Do you remember? Well, you would probably would have been on the board, but Megan, what's her name? No, Morgan. Morgan, their marketing person, was on a panel with me in 2021, maybe. I'm
Hmm?
trying to remember what year that was. And I mean, that was really eye-opening because they get a lot of like Fortune 500 bookings, like
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A and Coca-Cola and Home Depot. Like, I think that's a really unique market. Speaking of, plug for GWA Immersive in December. Atlanta is such an interesting co-working market. Chicago's
Yeah.
awesome and you'll get a lot of good tours there, but I think also Atlanta will be really interesting because there's so much great like innovation happening there. A lot of
Yeah.
diversity in product.
Yeah, no, but the location we toured was in Dallas, right?
Yeah, 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 right.
So,
Sorry.
and
Yes. And
it's
their only
around,
location.
but you're right, but it's around major corporations, right? You've
Yeah.
got JP Morgan up there, you got Toyota, you've got
Yep.
Liberty
And they figured out how to
Mutual,
tap into that. You got to get them
Boeing.
on a panel. Or will they, yeah, get them on a panel to
I'm
have
trying
them
to get them
share
to
all their
show up.
secrets. Yeah.
I've been trying to get them to get on
Yeah.
this podcast. I've been trying to get them to show up. And so it's funny. I sat down with two of the Dallas guys the other day and they had a bunch of questions. I'm like, if you guys would come to the conferences, a lot of
We'll
these get
train you.
answered, right? And I
Yeah,
can't answer
exactly.
some of these questions. And so it's just interesting.
Yeah. But I think the meetings and events piece is mysterious because I'm thinking about like, a reason to go to the conferences. Like, how do you innovate on where the demand is coming from? Because at Immersive, Mark put up that slide, 600% increase in on-demand bookings since, I presume, 2020. I can't remember what the date was. It doesn't really matter. It's an incredible, growth rate. And so
Yep.
many operators, though, are sitting on inventory that they can't change. So if they're going to do a new location, what do they do? Maybe they're not going to go roam, on their meetings and events, but what are the trends there? And I think there are a lot of interesting trends in meeting rooms and what's selling. I think that'll be a hot topic that is important to talk about to people in person. And also you can ask questions and all that good stuff. But I think meeting room innovation is going to be a big one in terms of product.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And
Yeah.
I mean, and how do you design some of these meeting rooms, right? And
Yep.
it's funny. I walk through some of these co-working spaces, and it's all like long boardroom tables, and I'm
Right.
like, why do you need 3 or 4 of these,
Of
right? I
those.
mean,
Yep.
you should have a think tank room that has a whiteboard
Yep.
and bean bags and couches, and
Yep.
so it's just trying to figure out different product types and different
Yep.
uses. It's like, why do you need 4 boardrooms?
Yep.
It
Yeah.
just doesn't make any sense for some of these people doing this stuff. And
Yep.
so,
Or how do you get access to that inventory? I had a woman on my podcast who is doing a management agreement. And I know that, it's really unusual that an independent operator gets approached to do one. She's in Tucson and they're doing a management agreement. And part of it'll be they'll run the amenities. And she wouldn't tell me exactly what their deal is with the landlord, but some sort of rev share, profit share on the meeting space. And they know how to run it and to get it utilized. And I think that's a differentiator. I'm working with a landlord who wants to do flex space, and he's got some rooms that are just too the typical, a little too big for offices. And so I think, but that market is really void of bigger creative meeting room spaces. So I've been digging into that topic as well.
yeah, there's a lot to figure out.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I there's so many people out there still that think they've got some kind of secret sauce and don't show up at these things, or
Oh
we
yeah.
had that in San Francisco. They're like, well, we don't want to be on a panel, but then they showed up like 6 deep, and I'm like, hey, okay, so they're just taking information. And so it's just, that's what I love about the industry, is everyone kind of, it's a give and a take,
Yeah.
right? And so it's, how do we continue collaborating and growing together and all that stuff.
Yeah. I think particularly now, I mean, it's harder to do new spaces. It's hard to get financing. Real estate's gotten more expensive. Construction's everything, it's not easy. Yep.
It is not, but I mean, it's exciting to hear some of the conversations, some of the new product
Yep.
types coming out from
Yeah.
vendors.
And there are brands that are killing it. I think that I have to remind myself of that sometimes. Like when you like Kiln, we had Arian on, and they're doing, they've got a product people really like. They're opening up, 60% full in some of their locations. It's pretty incredible. A product, a brand. I mean, they're really, investing and doing really well.
What
So
about Switchyards sold out in Austin in under 3 minutes?
I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah.
They already sold?
Yeah, it was like
Wow.
2 hours and 47 minutes they were sold out, which has
Wild.
been pretty consistent, right?
Yeah.
And everyone's
2
trying to
minutes,
fit
8
in.
minutes, somewhere under 10.
Yeah, and they've been creating all kinds of buzz, right? As they do it way ahead of time, and a bunch of their team is posting, "Hey, if you know anyone in these markets," because they're using locals to create that buzz, right? And so they're doing a great job doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. You should have a panel on everyone. You should put everyone that wants to replicate switch yards on a panel and have them
But
try to reverse engineer the magic sauce.
people are trying. People are trying.
Totally.
So we'll see. Well, we said we were going to keep this one short.
I'm
So
gonna keep it short. Good to check in. Any exciting plans for the 4th?
no, going to
No.
take it easy.
Oh, okay. I like it. I
I've been
think we are
trying to do
too.
that.
Dagny still, well, she can officially start, what's the word? Using her crutches less tomorrow.
Okay.
But, no swimming, no paddleboarding, no lake time, we're trying to get creative over here. So, yeah. So we will probably be kind of low key as well. maybe some
It's on the
fireworks.
home stretch. She's almost there on the
She'll
home
get there.
stretch.
Yeah, I think by week 6, which is a couple weeks away, she'll be doing more stuff. And then we got the dog, who also I think he's in week 6. So he's also doing much better.
Or an ACL, right? Or what was it?
Yeah, his is a torn ACL. I still have to carry him up and down the stairs, which is a bit of a workout. He's like 45 pounds. So I'm like, which is fine. I mean, I can handle that, but it's a funny little routine. Anyway, cool. Okay. Thanks for the catch up, Gio.
Talk to
We'll
you.
see you next week with another great guest.